Bronny James is taking baby steps toward the NBA. USC's defense has clearly upgraded in coaching, but what about the players? And where exactly are the Sparks on the eve of their franchise reboot? Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelinos Morning Report. And it is May 14th, 2024. New job in Illinois, same old craptacular hotel. Sucks for me, but whatever. Let's talk some LA sports. And if you like being in the know about LA, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means, comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. Dodgers 6, Scum Francisco 4. Will Smith hit a 2-run double in the 10th inning. And this is a reminder for all of the turd that those primates down in Slime Diego threw over the weekend. The Puds lost last night. So once again, 6.5 games out. It's all noise coming from them. All of it. Meanwhile, today, the Dodgers are at Scum Francisco again at 6:45. Gavin Stone is 3-1 with a 3.55 ERA. Keaton Wynn, 3-5 with a 5.63 ERA. What do you say we get to the news? Now, The Athletic is reporting that Bronny James, the son of the Lakers' surefire Hall of Famer, is expected to stay eligible for the NBA draft. ESPN could not confirm that report, but it did add that James has been medically cleared to participate in the NBA draft combine by a panel of 3 physicians who unanimously said, hey, cardiac arrest is so last year. He will take part, James will, in 5-on-5 scrimmages starting today in front of NBA executives after playing only about 20 games for USC. Now, this is a much needed step for James. If doctors had said no, he would have clearly had to prove his body could withstand an entire season, and probably that meant going back to college. He has until May 29th to officially decide whether he will stay in the draft or go back to school, which is either by returning to USC or staying in the transfer portal and going somewhere else. The best thing that you could say, aside from the fact that he's been cleared medically, about his NBA prospects is that he's a work in progress. Everybody agrees he plays hard. Everybody agrees he makes good choices on the court, that he's physically gifted, albeit kind of short for the NBA, and that he plays defense. He just hasn't been an effective shooter. And saying, well, I'll D up, that'll work in the rec leagues, but in the NBA, you got to score. Meanwhile, back on campus, St. Thomas told Orange County Register that he could not wait to play for new Trojans coach Eric Musselman. Other schools were telling him, don't go to SC, the coach is too hard. Quote, and I'm like, but his winning percentage is 70%. Why wouldn't I want to go play for somebody that's winning and everybody's hating on? Unquote. I like that guy. Thomas was originally angling for the NBA draft before an ankle injury kept him from the combine, so he transferred west. A friend said that Thomas texted Musselman the following, quote, I'm about to work my ass off so much for you, you have no idea how motivated I am, unquote. Even if you don't like USC that much, you got to admit, you'd want your players to be texting that kind of stuff. Across Heritage Hall, by the way, a few days ago, we talked about what USC's offensive lineup would look like after spring football practice. The Athletic decided to do the same with the defensive depth chart. And there has been a lot of change on that side of the ball, but once the dust settles, you realize many of the upgrades came simply through the coaching staff. And that matters. It does. Not just because defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn was terrific at UCLA last year, but because assistant Eric Henderson talked defensive tackle Bear Alexander to remove himself from the transfer portal. When you took a level-headed look at the Trojans' defensive line, this is not exactly the most talented group you've ever seen. If Alexander had left, this group probably would have been in shambles, which is, I mean, don't get me wrong, Alexander is a fine player. But Nate Clifton, who was strong at Vanderbilt, played for Vanderbilt, right? There were big plans for others who had stayed at USC, Anthony Lewis and Jameel Muhammad, but both of them, towards the end of last year, fell out of the defensive line rotation. Clearly, these two guys have something to prove. All of that is important because for Lynn to replicate the success that he had with the Bruins, USC's defensive line has to dictate terms at the line of scrimmage, or else there's not going to be that much of an improvement. Now, don't get me wrong. USC was so far down last year, it would be damn near impossible for Lynn, the coaches, and these players to replicate the 2 seasons of stupidity with the prior defensive coaching staff. But that line. Now, as for the rest of the defense, it's supposed to adjust from a 3-3-5 to a 4-2-5. One fewer linebacker. And I will say I like what I see from the ones who are probably starting. We know it's Easton Mascarenas Arnold and either Mason Cobb or Eric Gentry. They're simply going to have to fight it out. The safeties are deep. The Trojans added multiple transfers. 2 of them are likely the starters, Kamari Ramsey and Akili Arnold. And apparently Lynn likes taller cornerbacks because that's what he has throughout that room. If you put it all in the mix for USC, I want to believe in them. I do. But I really like a strong defensive line because a strong defensive line stops both the run and it pressures the quarterback in the pass. I don't believe USC has that. I don't. Just like we paused a moment ago to take a second look at USC's defense, this is where you pause and look at the Sparks. Do you think they'll break the streak of missing the playoffs for 3 consecutive years? And I'm really skeptical. Here's why. CBSSports.com listed the top 25 players in the WNBA. Not one Sparks player was listed in a 12-team league. Not one. Matter of fact, 2 players who were with the Sparks last year are on the list. Nneka Ogwumike, now in Seattle, Jordan Canada, now in Atlanta. And this tells me that the Sparks weakened themselves deeply for this franchise rebuild. Meanwhile, 4 Seattle players are on the list. 4 Las Vegas players alone are listed in the top 9. And we're going to expect the Sparks to compete with that immediately? No. What about that rebuild? The belief is that the current roster will have number 2 overall pick Cameron Brink starting, but number 4 overall pick Rickea Jackson is going to probably begin her career on the bench. Now, this doesn't mean the draft was an epic fail. It just means that it's probably not paying immediate dividends. But at least you might say to yourself with the Sparks, well, you know what? As long as there's not any drama, because there's been drama the last couple of years, the team can just focus and grow. Wrong. Yesterday, we mentioned how the Sparks finalized their roster for tomorrow's season opener. Yeah, that's not true. It's not true at all. Point guard Julie Alamond has decided to skip the entire season for personal reasons. She just pulled out. She was one of the 2 players that the Sparks picked when they traded the number 8th overall pick in the draft to Chicago. They got 2 players back. Alamond was one of them. They definitely plan on getting that lady some quality playing time. Poof. So I'm probably going to regret saying this because anytime you criticize a female athlete, you run the risk of being called a toxic male. But at the moment, I just don't care. I mean, she did injure an ankle in the offseason, but if it is the ankle, just say you have to miss the season because of the ankle. But it's not. It's for personal reasons. And unless it's a major thing like dealing with mental health to the point of suicide, if it's not that, I'd recommend cutting her. And it's not because she's a woman. I'm a Rams fan. Where the hell was Stetson Bennett, who took an entire season off for personal reasons last year? This lady abandoned her team with less than 48 hours to go before the season started. You know what that tells me? You can't be trusted. So get cut. Just like I was recommending Stetson Bennett get cut. Become an assistant manager at a bunt cake factory, for all I care. You don't have what it takes to be a professional athlete if you're going to abandon your team with 48 hours to go before the season. I mean, Bennett was supposed to be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. That's not happening now. And Julie Allemond has to prove she wants to be a professional athlete. You don't up and quit. Olivier Giroud said what we've known for months, that he was leaving Italian side AC Milan to come to MLS. And it's all very silly when you think about it, but soccer does have this flair for the pointlessly dramatic. We've known about this for months, guys. He's going to play for LAFC, but stringing it out, just like when you're in the third grade and your friend asks you, hey, how do you keep an idiot in suspense? LAFC, which will formally announce Giroud's signing this week, according to the LA Times, is currently 5th in the MLS Western Conference. Season's about a third of the way done. The Rams have signed 7 of their 10 draft picks so far. First-round draft pick, Florida State defensive end Jared Verse is not one of them. Third-round pick, Miami safety Cameron Kinchins, and fifth-round edge rusher Brennan Jackson of Washington State, also unsigned. Meanwhile, with the Chargers, tight end Nick Vannett will sign with the Tennessee Titans. He only played in 8 games, for the Chargers last year. He only caught 1 pass for 3 yards. Veterans joined the rookies for Bolt's offseason activities in Costa Mesa. Carlos Dotson has left the Clippers coaching staff to join the University of Central Florida. His role changes a little. In LA, he was part of pregame strategizing. He will be coaching defense over in Orlando. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me, for example, about Bronny James, if this changes your mind about his NBA prospects, the fact that he's not going to die on the court. What do you think of USC's rebuilt defense? And if you enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelinos. We're talking LA sports every single day now. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelinos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.